Hey crafty people, it's Tasha here and I'm back with another video for Heffy Doodle. Today I'm sharing two designs for some fabulous new baby congratulations cards. But first, I've got a little crafty tip to share. I love to colour on the go, so I'll take a selection of markers and some stamped images with me, whether it be just to a different room in my house or out and about. So I'll position them all in my Misty and stamp once onto some Heffy Doodle alcohol marker cardstock. It doesn't matter about getting the stamping perfect, so long as you can see what you're going to be colouring. Make sure that you leave those stamps in place in your Misty though, because we're going to restamp them once they're coloured. I love the dark, crisp black image that you get from VersaFine, but it's not alcohol marker friendly. So this way I get the best of both worlds with no smudged ink in sight. Just make sure that your paper is tucked right down into that corner, and I do like to test a few of the smaller images before I commit by actually stamping them all. So much better. Now just trim it all down into smaller chunks and then I'll die cut with my Heffy Doodle mini die cutting machine. I love this thing. So let's start with turning this little guy into a card. Here's what we're working towards, and I will be using Cloud High cover plate die, images from Quack Me Up, I love a pun, special delivery stamps and dies, and a mini action wobbler. So I've cut a panel from Heffy's Blast Cardstock, and I'm going to layer it on this gorgeous glittery cardstock from my stash. It's really textured though, so I'm adding plenty of glue and then I'll leave my Misty on it to make sure that it adheres really well. That extra weight will make sure that there's solid contact whilst the glue dries. Oh, I love those flashes that you see of the clouds as you move the panel. Next up, I'm embossing part of my sentiment in polished silver embossing powder from Wow. This powder is phenomenal. Oh, I'm stamping out the other part of my sentiment in VersaFine, and then I'll die cut the embossed part and trim down the rest into a sentiment strip. Now, I'm planning out my placement. I'm pretty sure that I want my stalk front and centre, but this wobbler is just a tiny touch too big, so I'm giving it a little shaping. You do want to make sure that you're taking any off fairly symmetrically so that your image still moves right. Plus, I'm literally shaving off just tiny amounts because I need plenty of adhesive left to firmly stick it onto my stalk. Now it fits much better. I want my stalk to be carrying the precious bundle, so I decided to do a little more minor surgery. Trimming down the white edge around his beak and then making a hole in the top of the bundle lets him really get that beak in there. Again though, I'm doing this just a little at a time. After all, you can always remove more, but you can't add any back if you take too much. So once I'm happy, I'm going to position it in place and add a little glue to hold it there. A few extra sky-based images from Quack Me Up, then my sentiment and some enamel dots, and this adventurous stalk is mission ready. Next up, we're making a whole welcoming committee for a special little boy called Rupert. We'll be using special delivery, Moxie alphabet dies, lots of love stencil, lovely lacy borders dies, Wonky stitched rectangle dies, the Man Cave Basics 6x6 paper pad, 2x2 safari animals, and Honey Bunny Boo. Let's start by cutting out the letters that we're going to need. I'm going to stack 2 white die cuts with the pattern paper on top. You don't have to stack them up, but I just really prefer that extra dimension that it gives. You should definitely try out both ways and see what works best for you. To stick them together, I'm using a micro dot adhesive sheet. You just place the die cuts onto it, and when you lift them up, the adhesive will have transferred over. I find it so much quicker and it's just more efficient. I'm putting together a little basket of gifts for the animals to give to baby Rupert. I'm using the basket and some little images from Special Delivery, along with a cute bunny that's going to be like a little cuddly toy, and that's from Honey Bunny Boo. I want to get them all positioned right, and then I'm adding some double-sided adhesive to hold them in place from the back. I want some subtle detail in my background, so I've trimmed out an A2 panel of Heffy's cornflower cardstock, and I'm using a pale grey to ink blend through the Lots of Love stencil. It's a pale enough grey to just appear to have slightly darkened the shade of cardstock, which is exactly what I'm after. Using the ink that's left on my blender, I'm just adding some to the edges of the panel. I like the edges to be a little darker. It brings your attention in to the main attractions of the card. Then for some extra detail, I'm going to use the largest Wonky stitched rectangle, but I'm being really careful to position it just right and tape that in place with my memo tape, because I don't want the edges of the die to cut anything off my panel. I want to ground my animals so they don't appear to be just floating in space. So I'm cutting this heart border die, and then I'm going to adhere Heffy's Huckleberry cardstock behind. By the way, save all of those little hearts for another project. They're great to use in a shaker or maybe as embellishments. Now is my favourite bit. I'm grabbing all of those separate elements and playing around with fitting them onto my card panel. The name is going to take up most of the width, so I'm trying to get that in position first, then I can move around all of the other elements to fit. I've got a rhino, a giraffe, a toucan and some foliage from 2x2 safari animals. Then I've got my gift basket being flown in by a stork, and then a smaller stork, and they're both from Special Delivery. As always, I'm using a mixture of my Heffy glue bit glue and some thin foam adhesive squares to give some dimension to my little scene. That row of hearts makes it really easy to lay everything out across the panel, and I'm not going to worry about adding shadows underneath anything because those darker hearts kind of do that for me, so it's a win-win. I purposely left off adding any other sentiment to the front of this card because that gives the recipients the option of using it as decor for the new nursery if they want to do that. Now that I've got things in place, I'll add all of my highlights in with a white gel pen. Don't forget to check out the blog post for some additional photos of both of the cards, along with a visual supplies list, and then you can use that to shop for any of the products that I've used for either of these cards. So, which one is your favourite? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to tag us over on Instagram or join our Heffy Doodlers group on Facebook to connect with us. We absolutely love seeing your fabulous creations. And if you aren't already subscribed, then we'd love to have you join us here on YouTube. I hope you have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.